Who have I met so far in 2025? Ahoy hi everybody, and welcome to another Martin Meets video. And this is another amalgamation of the people I've met so far in 2025. 4 of these are from in-store events at my local record shop, and one of them was a post-theatre show signing. This is in chronological order. So first person I met this year was Sophie Jameson. So I first became aware of Sophie when she was the special guest, the support at the book signing I went to last year for Simon Raymond, Cocteau Twin, founder of Bella Union Records. Sophie is signed to Bella Union, and she did a magnificent set before his talk. Absolutely blew the room away, you know, performed to complete silence as everybody was rapt listening to her amazing voice and her beautiful songs. I've mentioned this before. I wanted to meet her after that and buy her album. I was sat near to where she was signing, so I was just loitering, waiting for the queue to die down. And by the time it had died down, she'd actually run out of physical copies to sell. So I got in touch with her, ordered her album, which came via Bella Union, and an EP she put out, which she signed to me and posted to me. But I knew then that it had been arranged for her second album, which was due out in January, I think it was. She would be coming down to a slice of vinyl for a signing, and that happened. Sadly, not a huge turnout, reasonable numbers, but she deserved more. She came, she did a magnificent solo acoustic set, totally unamplified, just her guitar and her voice, which filled the room magnificently. She's got such a good voice, and she performed 5 or 6 tracks, I think it was, from her new album I Still Want to Share, which I had pre-ordered as to gain entry to the event, although because of the low numbers they did make it that you could just turn up, and I think most people who did just turn up ended up buying the album anyway because it's so good. I have listened to this album, and it is a really good album. The addition of strings and extra instruments to it really boost the songs, and yeah, they're just really beautiful songs, sung beautifully and performed beautifully. But yeah, met her afterwards and reminded her of our conversations by email, and she remembered me, which was lovely, and she was just, yeah, really warm and friendly. And this is a copy of her album I Still Want to Share, signed for Martin Hart, Sophie Jameson, and managed to get some photos with her, which I will put up now. The second in-store at Slice of Vinyl was a couple of weeks later, and this was with Johnny Lloyd. So Johnny, I've met before when he came down to a Slice of Vinyl with Tribes, his band. This was to publicise his solo album, Punchline. It wasn't as well. The Tribes one was pretty much full. Far fewer at this one. At one point it did look like it might have to be cancelled, but thankfully numbers picked up. And there's, again, 20 to 30 people there, I think, which was nice enough. Johnny came on and he did an acoustic set, amplified in his case, where he played 1 track from a previous solo album, 1 Tribes track, I think, and 4 or 5 from this album, Punchline. I haven't listened to the album yet, so I can't comment on the actual album. But again, met him afterwards, had a nice chat. I sort of asked him about when he's writing, how he knows if it's going to be a solo single or a Tribes song, and he talked about, you know, the difference in the writing process with Tribes and how those songs tend to come more organically out of jamming with the band. But yeah, that was very interesting, and he was very nice. So this is the album, which he signed for me, to Martin, Johnny Lloyd. And again, we've got some photos, and here they are. The third in-store event was with Rebelski, Martin Rebelski. So Martin is a member of Peter Hook and the Light. I hope I've remembered the band name correctly there. He plays keyboards for them, and he is sort of the unofficial member of the Doves. So he records with them, he tours with them as their keyboard player, but he's not an actual member of the band. He was there promoting his new solo album called Monochrome, which is almost entirely piano instrumentals. There are some vocals on it with guest vocalists. So he performed just him and keyboard with various iPads and things like that to add backing vocals when on the couple of vocal tracks he performed. Again, not a huge turnout. I was stood right in front of him, and it was just hypnotic watching him play, watching him, trigger samples and things like that. And the music was beautiful. He did a nice tribute. It was a few days after David Lynch had died, and he did a nice tribute by playing Falling, the Twin Peaks theme, which was really nice. But yeah, as I say, it was just mesmerising watching him and letting the music just wash over you. Really, really great event. And yeah, met him again, obviously, afterwards. And he was lovely, not overly chatty, but he took the compliments well. He was signing Monochrome, and he actually chose to sign the inner sleeve, which is fine. So to Martin, many thanks. I mean, I'm presuming it says Martin Rebelski, but the surname looks like it starts with a T, but I'm guessing that's a flash R. But yeah, as I say, really nice. And again, got photos. Next was the theatre show that I went to. So as some of you will know, I recently turned 50. When this stage show was announced, as a big fan of the show and the people involved with it, I knew I had to go to London to go and see it. When I was booking it, I thought, that's a good thing to do on my 50th birthday. So I went up with my mum and her partner Dave, and we went to see Inside Number 9 Stage Fright. So I won't say too much about the actual stage show, although I think it's nearly at the end of its run, because it may tour, they may release it physically, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who's interested in watching it. Just to say, it was an absolutely wonderful evening, one of the best evenings I've ever spent in a theatre. Absolutely hilarious, really clever, just loved every second of it. Whenever possible, Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith do the stage door afterwards and sign for people. It's only if, they've got other things on that one or other or both won't do it. And sure enough, afterwards we headed round. Luckily we were only about 5th or 6th in the queue, because the queue ended up snaking right round the building. It was a massive queue of people waiting to meet them. Because they're always so popular, they don't do photos with. It's literally they'll just go along and sign. It is a very quick meeting. However, I complimented both of them on how fantastic the show was, and they both, acknowledged me and thanked me for coming. Yeah, it was just a thrill to meet two of my heroes. So I've met Mark Gatiss many years ago after a stage play, so that's all the acting members of A League of Gentlemen I've met now, so I just need to meet Jeremy Dyson. But yeah, I got them to sign my programme, so that's Reece at the top and Steve at the bottom. And here's a few photos that Dave took of me and Mum meeting them and briefly chatting with them as they signed. And then finally was a book event, which was held actually in Slice of Vinyl. Normally the book events are done in a different venue at St John's Church. For various reasons, they're trying to keep them in store at the moment, unless they're going to be so popular that they need a bigger venue. This one deserved to be more popular, but it sadly didn't even sell out the limited numbers that they could fit into the shop. And it was with Mark Webber, and some of you may think, who's Mark Webber? Mark Webber is the guitarist with Pulp. A member of Pulp was in Gosport, and people couldn't be asked to come down and meet him and hear about the band. The number of people who commented to the team at Slice of Vinyl, Kieran and Emma, oh, why couldn't you get Jarvis? Well, A, Jarvis hasn't written a book that he's promoting at the moment. He has written a book, but not one that he's promoting at the moment. And 2, Jarvis would be doing bigger places. But yeah, Mark was great. So he came in. There was a bit of drama at the start of the in-store as a guy actually fainted and badly injured his ankle, so there was a delay whilst that was dealt with and waited for him to be taken off to hospital. He's fine apparently, but then once it did get going, Kieran interviewed him, and it was a really interesting interview covering, so Mark's quite interesting because he started off meeting Pulp to interview him for a fanzine, became a fan, started running their fan club, acted as a roadie, moved up to tour manager. Then they needed somebody. Jarvis had decided he didn't want to play guitar as much on stage, so they needed somebody to play his parts on stage. So Mark got roped in, and then after recording Different Class, which Mark contributed to greatly, he was made a full-time member of the band, and he's been a full-time member ever since. So it's quite interesting hearing the story of how all that happened, then hearing Mark's perspective on things like the big Glastonbury show in '95, the Jarvis Cocker incident with the Michael Jackson incident with Jarvis, various other things, the music he loves, all sorts of really interesting stuff. Yeah, very interesting talk. After the interview, it was thrown open to questions from the crowd, and he answered those fully, frankly, and funnily. Yeah, and it was just a really great event. And then afterwards, he signed our copies of the book. So this is the book. I'm with Pulp, Are You? I haven't read it yet, but it's full of his story of his time with Pulp, and lots of pictures of. So he likes ephemera, and he's just collected loads and loads and loads of Pulp-related ephemera, and it's pictures of it all basically. And as I say, tied in with his time with the band from interviewing them right up to present day. He did reveal a few tidbits about the future, but I can't say anything. Well, I say he revealed it, he hinted at a few things. But yes, so he signed it for me. So, when I met him, so Pulp are one of my favourite bands, and their music means a hell of a lot to me. So I took the opportunity when I went up to meet him just to thank him for the music and say how much it meant to me. And he was very humble, but you could tell he sort of appreciated it and said, well, you know, we try our best, I think he said. But he was taking time with everybody. I don't know how many different quotes he put in the book, but all of them he put a little quote in the book. And he was alternating between colours. He had red, green, blue and black that he was writing in. And also he had little badges, and I've just realised basically it's a little button badge of that. So a round one, so it hasn't got the border, so it's that colour with I'm with Pulp, Are You written on it. If I find it, I'll fish it out and take a little picture, which I'll put in here. Here's the badge. But yeah, so on mine, he put, "Oh, Martin, do you remember?" As in, do you remember the first time? Love, Mark. And again, got some photos, and here they are. So yeah, that's who I've met so far in 2025. As always, big shout out to the team at A Slice of Vinyl, Kieran and Emma, and the kids, Ruben and Ali. Special thanks to Kieran and Emma for taking photos for me. They go above and beyond for me because they know I'm going to talk about it on social media. So they take extra photos while I'm meeting the people and make sure that I get photos with them as well. So yeah, but all lovely people to meet, especially thrilled with those two guys and Mark, but all of them, as I say, absolutely lovely to meet. Nothing lined up at the moment. There's a couple of in-stores coming up that I can't make, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to make. But obviously if I do, I will mention them on a video in the future and any more that come up. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on another video. Thanks.